Hi there, I'm Andrew. Welcome to Adventure Rider. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Klim Badlands Pro and the Klim Badlands Pro A3 jackets, which represent Klim's flagship offering in their adventure collection. And by virtue of being Klim's flagship offering, it means we're going to find the highest spec and the highest price that we will find anywhere in the adventure clothing world. The two jackets that we're looking at side by side today are the Badlands Pro and the Badlands Pro A3. The only difference is in the fabric used in the main body of the jacket, which on the A3 variant is called Vectran, and that has some abrasion resistant qualities that exceed anything else you generally find in the textile world, elevating this to a AAA level of CE approval, making it the only dedicated adventure jacket on the market that's a AAA level of CE approval, which means it's extremely durable and rugged. The Badlands Pro, by comparison, doesn't have that in the main body, but is still extremely durable and comes in with a AA rating. So that's partly why you have the price difference, and we are talking about a difference of a few £100. So we have £1,240 as opposed to £1,600. So neither is cheap, and the gulf between them is down purely to this fabric. So I'll talk about the fabric more a little bit later and what it is and some of the qualities and the reasons, and you can therefore judge for yourself if that difference is worth it. But I thought, why not just get the one that is the peak of the peak of the peak next to us here to talk about. And I do love the colorway that this one comes in the Stealth. Colorways, just to quickly run through those, we have various different options. So we have the sort of muted monotones with the Stealth in both versions, but the Stealth looks different. So this one has more of a grey-black two-tone in the A3. The Stealth in the Badlands Pro is just more of a flat black. So just bear that in mind. They're not exactly the same. And then we have some lighter greys and some more garish colors, as we always get with Klim, for those of you that like to stand out a little bit more. So Klim have kind of turned to the parts bin of things available out there for clothing in the adventure world and taken the top spec of everything. And that is partly why it comes in at such a high price. So we have a Gore-tex 3L Pro waterproof breathable membrane. This is the best you can get just for simplicity's sake, because it's Gore-tex, which means you get a lifetime guarantee on the waterproofing and breathable element of that membrane. And being a 3L Pro, it means it's 3 layers, and that makes it hard wearing. Means it's slightly heavier as a result, but it means it is extremely long lasting. And in many ways, there's no point having a lesser membrane in a jacket that's designed to be extremely robust in itself. It would be two slightly different briefs there. Whereas the Badlands Pro is designed 100% for the hardcore adventuring community. And I think the reason that it gets some flack is because obviously lots of people will buy it just because it's the flagship, even if they don't plan on doing anything particularly adventurous. And that is their prerogative, and I don't understand why everyone has such strong opinions on what others do with their money, but there is no doubt this has been designed for going hardcore, and this can definitely take on everything. The simplest way I would conceptualize the briefing behind the Badlands Pro and A3 is that it's your insurance policy against the elements. So if you live in somewhere like Morocco, like Spain, or there are places that you tend to do most of your riding, or the southern states of the US, then you don't need this jacket because it's got a fixed waterproof membrane and it will simply be a hindrance to your comfort. You will want something like the Baja jacket that is more summer, hot weather focused. But for everyone else, traveling places where the weather is less dependable, and I often am going to places I've never been, I'm doing events where I'm pushing myself and I'm always on the limit and finding that I'm over the limit too often. And having something like the Badlands Pro is a brilliant option because yes, it's expensive, but it really is an investment. It's going to have you protected. It's going to take on all the elements. It's going to take all the bushes and brambles and things you find yourself riding through. It's going to slide along the ground many times. And so there are lots of reasons why it's more than just what meets the eye as to why this jacket is a good option. It isn't lightweight. It isn't the most dexterous of feel. It's a solid unit. It's a tank of a jacket. That said, the Vectran does have the net benefit of being slightly lighter than the other nylon fabric used in the standard Badlands Pro, and therefore that is a slight nod to justifying the price difference of the Vectran. So let's talk about that quickly. I'm going to keep going off on tangents. The Vectran fabric is something we don't find very often in the textile industry in the motorcycling world because it's super expensive, hence why this jacket is what it is. Vectran has the ability to massively surpass the abrasion-resistant qualities of things like Dyneema, ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene, of aramid fibers, and so on that we find used in most of the abrasion-resistant materials that are more than just what we get in the high denier nylons in the textile world of adventure gear. It's more abrasion resistant. It also has very good heat resistant qualities, so it's not going to build up heat from abrasion and transfer that through into the fabric and degrade. It's also got much higher resistance to chemicals, to things like bleaching, to things like laundry detergents, to things like UV rays. So from those points of view as well, this is a jacket designed to last. This is very much designed to be built to a specification and not a price point. In terms of the fixed laminate membrane of the waterproofing, there are two often very vocally competing camps when it comes to adventure gear and whether one way is right and the other way is wrong. There is no right and wrong. So you have either a laminate approach to waterproofing, which is a fixed membrane, as we have here, meaning that it's always going to be there whether you like it or not. And then we have a layered approach where we have a waterproof layer that we can remove from the equation when we don't need waterproofing. Sounds like a much better option, but the downsides to it are it's more hassle and it can be far less optimal, and you may still want your waterproofing layer like this to have pockets and access and things like that, which you don't typically find as many of in plain waterproof removable layers. So for those people that want a laminate approach, there's a big justification for it. There's a big justification for it if what you do is a lot of touring, and I mean touring rather than adventure proper, because touring riding, high speeds, which equals a lot of wind chill factor, and you're usually relatively passive. I'm not knocking anyone, I'm just saying you're not throwing yourself around generating anywhere near as much body heat as if you were off-road in most situations. And that means a laminate jacket lends itself quite well, because you can have one jacket that just takes on everything, open up the vents when you need it, and you're generally going high speed and a lot of airflow, and it can work well in all situations. So that's where laminated membranes typically thrive and are the best solution. But for adventure riding, I've tried to do the maths, and I would hazard to guess that you can generate what feels like an equivalent to about 15 to 20 degrees of extra heat just by how active you get. So what I mean by that is if it's 10 degrees out there, but you're doing some really hardcore off-road riding, it can feel like it's 25 because of the heat that you're generating. So if it's already 25 and you're adding another 20 to it, it can feel ridiculously hot, almost too hot. So if you have a laminated fixed waterproof membrane, it can become really problematic, because vents are only going to go so far. They're trying to mitigate the existence of something that's still there. They're just trying to work around it. Most brands fall short, and they simply don't have anywhere near good enough ventilation to in any way go far enough to do that. Klim are one of the few who have really put their minds to it, and particularly with the Badlands. In fact, I would say exclusively with the Badlands Pro. They have got so many vents that it does do a very decent job of going a long way. There is no way you would go as far as to say you could still use this in Spain, southern states of the US and Morocco and the like. This is very much something that will have your back in all UK weather situations, in all but the most hot and off-road, high output active scenarios. But there are many vents which I'll go through, and hopefully I will illustrate that point shortly. So as well as the Vectran or the high AAC approved garment that we have in the standard Badlands Pro, we also have things like the laser bonded ceramic plates that you'll find on the Superfabric, which is the abrasion resistant material that we get in the elbows and in the shoulders. And in the elbows, it extends quite far down the forearm, which is good to see. So there's a liberal use of it there as well. In terms of the fit and the sizing of the jacket, a lot of people say that it's a very boxy fit, which sounds quite a negative thing. I think that the issue is actually just the size grading more than anything else, because I usually a large, I'm 6'2", I've got a 41-inch chest and quite long arms. So I usually find myself being a large in pretty much everything. In the Klim, when I wore the large, it was like I was 10 years old again trying to wear my dad's jacket. It looked absolutely ridiculous. Whereas in the medium, it actually fitted really nicely. So the medium is what I have here in the B-roll, and in fairness, I think it looks nice and tailored. It's not a super slim fit by any stretch, but I wouldn't call it boxy. I would say it's just an adventure fit. So if you can account for the Americanization of the sizing being slightly more generous, you probably will need to go down a size from what you're used to if you're European. But then I think you'll find a jacket that actually does fit pretty well. So running through the garment from top to bottom, we have a relatively wide collar in its default setting and a relatively low one so that you can have it in a fairly loose configuration, but you have a drawstring here, so you can bring it in if that's what you want, and you have soft cotton to allow for a nice fit against your neck without creating anything uncomfortable. This central zip is nice, it's flat, it's low tech, it has Velcro on the underside, and as you will see, it has a storm flap, which is a way of preventing water that gets in under this outer flap from getting through to the central zipper. So it will just fall back on itself down this gutter-like channel and away. We have a very easy to use zipper, which is one of the things I do really like, because sometimes things that are designed to be rugged and robust actually have a feel of being quite sort of substantial, heavy. And this zip is really light, it's easy, it doesn't have in any way a sort of feel to it like it's going to cause you problems over time. A waterproof pocket on this, they call it a Napoleon pocket, on the inside of this chest area, which sits under the waterproof bonded Gore-tex 3L Pro layer. We also have the ability to pin back the collar, so that's actually one very effective way of getting around having a laminated waterproof membrane, by just peeling the whole layer away. Now obviously that provides exposure there, but that's going to do quite a lot of airflow. If you just have it done about halfway, then you know it's quite a big difference there. There's not a huge value to having extensive ventilation much lower than halfway down, because you'll have your cowl and your fairing probably preventing any wind and air from getting through there in a substantial, noticeable way. Pockets on the outside are very extensive. I will miss some, but you'll hopefully get the general gist. This one looks to me like it's designed for a Garmin InReach or something very adventure-y. You've got the MOLLE webbing system up here, which is cool for those people that like that. You've got pockets aplenty. You've got the zip down here on the front, which is one storage pocket stroke vent pocket. Another pocket on the outside there with a Velcro overlay flap too. We also have adjusters on the bicep and the forearm. We have vents just here on the side as well. We have vents on the forearm. Correspondingly, we have exit vents on the back of the arm, which you don't often find, which makes a big difference to the airflow in the arm itself, because if there's only an intake vent but no exit vent, it often means the air just gets stuck and it doesn't really flow through nicely. We also have the medical pouch with a waterproof enclosure, waterproof zip here around the cuff to make it easy to get on and off. It's also two-way there. It's two-way on the central zipper, I should have said as well. Soft piping with the leather around the bottom of the cuff, and I do like this touch, because in the past, a lot of the Klim jackets have felt a little bit unloved when it came to the refinement of comfort. Just because something's expensive and built to be rugged doesn't mean it has to feel brutal when you put it on. This one doesn't, and in fact with the Vectran fabric it does feel substantially lighter, I think I said, than the other version, and the creature comforts are pretty nice on this. So it isn't a jacket that falls into that category of feeling too brutalist, but that said, it's also a jacket that feels reassuringly substantial. There will be people that like to have the thickest, chunkiest jacket and armor for reassurance. There will be people that don't like that and want it to feel as understated as possible. And in that sense, probably the Badlands Pro isn't the #1 choice for you. But for most people, I think you wouldn't find this prohibitively structured. I think it strikes a fairly decent balance given all the things that it has going on, and being the only AAA in the A3 as well. We have Velcro overlay on the cuffs. The Superfabric panels, as I said, pretty extensive, reflective section on the upper arm and on the back. Klim branding is pretty understated for once on this particular garment in this particular colorway. If you want it more overstated, then you also have options there. Exit vents on the 3/4 sections on the back. We have a big horizontal pouch, I think it's called a poacher's pouch on the back. And as we go down inside the jacket, you'll notice there is a kidney belt, and this is really, really well structured. It's a great thing because not only does it give you the extra support around this midsection, it doesn't rise up, it doesn't get annoying and interfere like a lot of other kidney belts do, in all fairness. It's elasticated on the sides so that you can have this done up. It doesn't matter if you have a bit more of a belly, should we say. There's lots of adjustment here so you can be comfortable regardless. But the kidney belt also structures inside, you won't be able to see it, I can't show you, but there are straps that run internally which help hold the entire jacket in place. And when you pull this in, it pulls everything really nicely into position and it just fits right, it sits right, and it sort of helps spread the load of the weight just a little bit more evenly. There's also an integrated pouch for the Hydra pack, I think they call it 2 litre or 3 litre, if you like to have an integrated hydration bladder inside your jacket. The chest sections as well, so level 2 D3O armour, Viper armour in the elbows, shoulders and in the back, and that's all removable if you need to, but there's these chest sections here which come with a pad. It's not C approved, but you can upgrade. Klim do sell a specific level 1 C approved option. There is also a horizontal pocket here. You have drawstring adjustment as well. And you have a moisture wicking fabric on the inside that does do a very impressive job of helping to keep you cool, or cooler than you'd expect given the relative weight and robustness of the garment overall. I think I've covered most of the main points. Everything that I've said about the jacket is also applicable to the trousers. The trousers simply have some leather goat hide sections on the inside, which you won't find on the jacket, but otherwise it's all the same. And it's a similar concept as well. If you're persuaded by some of the concept of this, but you can't stretch this far, something like the Klim Carlsbad delivers quite a lot of what I've covered here in the Badlands Pro at a much lower price, relatively speaking. And that would be a AA garment, but it won't have quite as much of the robustness here. So that's really the difference that you're getting with the Badlands Pro A3. It's the best of the best, and there is a premium to be paid for that, for sure. And whether that's justifiable, only an individual can decide that for themselves. But if you've got any questions about it, any things I've missed, and I'm sure I have, apologies, but leave it in the section below and I will get back to you. And do stay tuned for more video reviews of Klim's amazing adventure range and also of other stuff from the finest of the world's adventure riding gear. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.